All right, my friends, JR Dukes at your service. Appreciate everybody joining me today for this special edition of the Power Hour. We're going to take a look at a few things that's going on right now. I just hit the buttons to make everything go live. I want to welcome everyone on X, on YouTube, and on Twitch. So I hope everybody's doing fantastic this Sunday. What a great week we just had, huh? A prayer answered from God, having finally President Donald Trump elected as the 47th President of the United States. I, for one, am just relieved. I'm glad this political season is over as far as the presidential campaign is concerned, and I am extremely glad that President Trump has won. Now all we have to do is wait for a few more races that are being decided. We're going to take a look at that here in just a second and see exactly what's going on with that. And I also today want to talk about a few current events. Obviously, the political fallout, if you will. The Democrats are definitely having a bad week, to say the least. They are in disarray, and surprisingly, or maybe not so surprisingly, some of them are coming out fiercely against President Donald Trump. I have a newspaper article here I want us to take a look at pertaining to Nancy Pelosi. If we get time, I think you'll find that interesting because some of them, as you would expect, are still stirring up trouble, even though the American population has said definitively, we want Donald Trump and the Republicans in charge. They fully rejected this nonsense, crazy liberal shenanigans, and they want something different. And we're going to talk about it today. And I also want to talk about Dr. Phil. You know, I've bragged on Dr. Phil for quite some time, especially after he went to Madison Square Garden at that campaign rally of Donald Trump's, and he gave an endorsement of Donald Trump. At least that's what I heard, and that's what we talked about on this program before. Well, Dr. Phil has some interesting words that apparently were filmed with Piers Morgan just before the actual election this past Tuesday. And we're going to talk about that. It's just kind of interesting as to what he has to say. So I hope you stick around so that we can also talk about that. So come on in. If you haven't done so already, please introduce yourself, say hello, let me know where you are from. Let me make sure everybody can hear me. Hello to Rosemary Fiera. Thank you for joining us as always. So everybody come on in. If you have any trouble hearing or with the volume or anything, let me know. We're going to get started on this right now. So let me just start off by saying welcome, as our current president would say, to all you beautiful pieces of garbage out there. Of course, I call you my friends, my followers. Our president has a different term for you, but at any rate, we've been called worse, right? Or at least we've been called other things: deplorable, irredeemables, Nazis. Of course, garbage by our current president, Joe Biden. I guess I could go on and on. We even had Tampon Tim call us weird, which is probably a softball compared to what a lot of the other things were that they have called us over time. But I'm just so excited, so happy. Donald Trump is working hard right now to put our country back together, as he would say, to make America great again. Speaking of Donald Trump, on Truth Social, he just posted something, and I want us to take a look at it together. Let's go ahead and let's dive right into it. All right. I blew this up a little bit. If you can't read it, don't worry about it. I know some of you have phones or whatnot with you, but this was from President Donald Trump in the last 20, 23 hours, pertaining to, you remember, Ambassador, former Governor Nikki Haley, I believe it's South Carolina, is what she was governor of. And then, of course, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. Obviously, Donald Trump and him were close at one point. And then I believe it was right after January 6th when all that nonsense happened. You had Mike Pompeo saying some rather nasty things pertaining to President Donald Trump. At any rate, Donald Trump has a long memory, as we all know. And he says on his Truth Social program, I will not be inviting former Ambassador Nikki Haley or former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo to join the Trump administration, which is currently in formation. I very much enjoyed and appreciated working with them previously and would like to thank them for their service to our country. Make America great again. Let me translate that for you. Goodbye, good riddance, see you later. Obviously, I don't blame Donald Trump for that. Nikki Haley, of course, ran against him in the primary, and it was I would say it got a little heated at times. And I think Donald Trump necessarily was not upset about the competition. I think what he was upset about was the attacks went from just what we would consider a normal primary, and it went into the realm of something much nastier, at least in my opinion, and it went to something much nastier. She, frankly, when she dropped out, she kept hanging around knowing she had no path to victory. And then at the very end, if you remember, when she left, she never did endorse Donald Trump. At least an immediate full-throat endorsement just simply did not come from Nikki Haley. And to my knowledge, it really did not come until this past RNC actual party that they had that nominated President Donald Trump officially. So I think sometimes, ladies and gentlemen, you get what you deserve. One little bit of housekeeping note. I have a link right here I'm going to paste in. If you would like to join today's program, all you need to have is just your phone. You can simply call in, if you will, by clicking that link, or you're welcome to join by video. Just otherwise, if you have a question or a comment, put it in the comments as always. And if you subscribe to the channel, I always make sure I answer your comments first. Okay, so let's move on to the next little subject here. Let's take a look and see exactly what has what is transpiring as of right now in this presidential election. Obviously, thankfully, I should say, the Republicans are firmly in control of the Senate. I think it's official at 52, 53 seats. We'll take a look and see if we can figure out exactly what the current, here we go. Okay, what the current tally is. Let's take a look at this here. We can switch over. Now, this is according to the AP Associated Press. As of right now, for the House of Representatives, there are currently 203 seats called for the Dems, and you have 213 seats called for the Republicans. So, yay. We have to get to, is it 217 or 218? Anybody know off the top of your head? I think it's the 218 figure that we have to get. So, we're only 5 seats away from maintaining control of the House, and I'm assuming that Speaker Mike Johnson will remain in power and continue on as Speaker of the House. I'm sure that he has President Donald Trump-elect, I like saying that, by the way, President Donald Trump-elect, full confidence. And I would assume that he will stay on as the Speaker of the House of Representatives. So there's quite a few seats still up for grabs, but if you go through the actual chart as to what the live counts are for each seat, I believe the Republicans are definitely favored to win back the House, which of course would be very good news, especially if you support our president the way that I do. Now, let's take a quick peek at the other chart I got here. Now, this is the actual live updates of the presidential race. Let's take a peek at what we got here. Okay, currently, as of right now, we have 226 for Kamala Harris as far as the Electoral College is concerned. And, of course, Donald Trump has finished with 312 electoral votes. You need 270 electoral votes to become president of the United States. Now, here's what's amazing. Donald Trump has swept each and every state. If you look at the state of Nevada, remember, he did not win Nevada back in 2016. He did not win Nevada in 2020, but he won Nevada in 2024. Here is the 96% reporting. Donald Trump has 50.6% of the vote. Kamala Harris 47.5% in the state of Nevada. What an amazing change. Same thing in the state of Arizona, 89% reporting. And by the way, what is going on with our country in the year 2024 that we, with all the money that we spend on elections in this country, we can't even conduct an election appropriately and have it happen quickly. I mean, this should be computers and whatnot, and boom, we should have results. I realize that they have these votes that are mailed in, absentee votes or whatnot, but still, we should have way ahead of 89% of the votes counted in an election in the state of Arizona. Just seems like a bunch of nonsense to me. At any rate, you have Donald Trump at 52.5%, and that race has been called by the AP. You had, quote unquote, battleground state Georgia. You had Donald Trump again win 50% majority, 50.7% at 2.6 million votes. North Carolina was considered another battleground state. Now, y'all that have listened to me on this channel, I have said openly that North Carolina is definitely not a battleground state. But at any rate, 51.1% of the vote in favor of Donald Trump. You have 99% of the precincts reporting. So this is going to be a pretty close to final number in the great state of North Carolina. Donald Trump won North Carolina back in 2016 and 2020. As far as Georgia goes, Donald Trump did win Georgia in 2016, but not in 2020. And then the other battleground states, the so-called blue wall that we have talked about many times on this particular program, 99% of the reporting votes are reported in. 19 electoral votes up for grabs. Donald Trump did very well considering how close the votes were supposed to be. So 50.6%, 3.511 million votes for Donald Trump, 3.366 for Kamala Harris at 48.5% of the votes. What a decisive victory. I will tell you, I was hoping, maybe you agree, disagree, but I was hoping one way or the other. First of all, I definitely did not want Kamala Harris to win, but I wanted to make sure there was a clear, decisive winner, whichever way it went. At least that was my opinion on there. Okay, so Michigan, we're 99% reporting in. We have Donald Trump at 49.7% of the votes, 2.8 million votes. Kamala Harris, 2.7 million votes. So that is definitely a lot closer in the state of Michigan. Of course, a win is a win. And in Wisconsin, also very close, 10 electoral votes up for grabs. You have 49.7% for Donald Trump. Remember, in 2016, Donald Trump did win the so-called blue wall states. You have Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. He lost them in 2020. And of course, Donald Trump is projected to be the winner of the 3 states that encompass the so-called Great Blue Wall. Another thing I want to just briefly mention, even in the state of New York, take a look at this here. This is about as deep blue as you get in our country. And you have Donald Trump so far in New York with 97% reporting at 55.8% of the vote. Kamala Harris, at 55.8% of the vote. Donald Trump at 44.7%. So you have 4.3 million votes versus 3.4 million votes. This is really very good for the Republicans, very good for Donald Trump. That is a much narrower margin than a Republican performs in a usual primary in the state of New York. I believe in some of these other states here that are generally always blue, Donald Trump did very well. I know for a fact that in all of these states, Donald Trump closed that gap a lot more closely he definitely made it a lot more narrow than it normally is. I think that's probably the best way to say it. And of course, here in my home state of Florida, Donald Trump easily walked away with it at 56.1% of the vote that was in on that. So let's keep our fingers crossed, ladies and gentlemen, and let's hope Donald Trump is able to keep the House. It's going to be so much easier for him to carry out the agenda that he has. Clearly, this is a mandate for the American people. His ability to win the actual vote count, the popular vote as they call it, and the electoral college and this type of thing, in my opinion, is truly stunning. And if you're interested, Donald Trump currently has 74.7 million votes. Kamala Harris 70.9 70,900,000-ish votes. So it looks like they're going to be separated by approximately 4.7 million votes. That's pretty good, especially if you are a Republican. Now, one last thing I want to just briefly mention. Notice right here, see this count? You got 212 for Kamala Harris and 312 for Donald Trump, right? I rarely do this as far as, I don't know, telling you what whether I was right or whether I was wrong on a particular subject or particular vote. However, let's take a quick peek. Here is we're just going to do this because I think it's fun. At least I enjoy it. Okay, so here is yours truly. This was how long did we do? I think this was the day before the actual election. We're just going to listen to a minute of it here. And here is my actual projection. Let's see exactly what happened. That really resonated with Nevada, specifically the county of Henderson, which is where Las Vegas is located, because there's so many individuals there that work in the hospitality industry. And of course, Las Vegas is all about tourism. There's a lot of people that work in Las Vegas that support the visitors. Of course, that's pretty simple. And this no tax on tips situation has been very, basically, I'm just mentioning that I believe he's going to carry the state of Nevada, even though he did not carry the state back in 2016 or 2020. Just simply well underestimating the appeal of Donald Trump. We're going to find out very soon. So I'm going on the record right now.
Here we go.
It's obviously recorded. You're hearing it right from my mouth, whether you listen to it now or later tonight. I'm going to project Donald Trump the winner at 312 electoral college votes. And of course, Kamala Harris would wind up with 226 in this scenario. So you have heard it. That's my prediction. And we'll just have to see how this turns out. All right, so there you go. But obviously, if I was wrong, I would not be sharing that video with you. But you seem like it turned out pretty good, so I'm not going to complain. Obviously, for the obvious reasons. But I'm glad I was correct. Like I said, I was very confident that the polls. It's not like it's rocket science. I mean, let's be straight up about it. The polls were wrong back in 2016. The polls were wrong again in 2020 after they told us that they fixed it, or whatever that meant, that they fixed the errors that they apparently have in the polls, and they obviously just did not do that in 2020. So I personally had no reason to believe that they were going to be able to quote unquote fix it, and thankfully I just ended up to be correct on that. So we're going to go ahead and switch into one of the main things I want to talk about tonight. Oh, and by the way, I think one of the things that we can take away from this clearly is the fact that our polling is unreliable. I meant to put it, obviously. There's no reason to believe in these polls. Remember that Iowa poll that came out this past weekend, and you had the so-called legacy media. They were all up in arms. They were going nuts about the fact that they had this most respected gold standard poll. I believe it was the Des Moines Register, and it was showing that Kamala Harris was 3-4 points ahead of Donald Trump in Iowa. Are you kidding me? There's no way that poll was going to be correct. And at the time I said, look, the poll's not correct. It's wrong, just like they have always been wrong about these polls. Donald Trump's support is drastically being underestimated for a whole list of reasons. I have a whole list of reasons. I think it's anything from the fact that they're being purposeful and trying to mislead us. And I also think it's pretty obvious that for whatever reason, Donald Trump is not able to be reflected accurately in the polls. Maybe a lot of his supporters do not really want to give information as to how they're going to vote. Maybe so. I mean, a lot of people are very private with their votes. I know when I was younger, you just didn't go around asking people, hey, who are you going to vote for? It's just something that it was just disrespectful. It just wasn't something that was done. Do y'all know what I'm talking about? It was rude, I guess is about the best way to say it. Hello to Sapphire too. Appreciate you joining me today, my friend. Thanks for being here, and I hope you are feeling better also. All right, here's what I want to get into with Dr. Phil. And ladies and gentlemen, I have to tell you, I like Dr. Phil. I think Dr. Phil is great. I've always enjoyed his programs. I think a lot of his advice is pretty sound. And I mean, what else can I say? I've liked him, and I really liked him when I saw him at this MSG Madison Square Garden rally, who came out in support of Donald Trump. And I meant, tell me if I'm wrong, but when you see someone at a rally, do you not assume that they're there to support that particular candidate? And the point I want to make sure we all understand in this speech is Dr. Phil, he was very forceful. He was very animated. He was like, hey, I'm here, and I know there's going to be a lot of people mad about the fact that I'm here, but I don't care. I have a ton of money. I don't care who likes it, who doesn't like it. I'm standing up for what's right, blah, blah, blah. Let's listen to a few minutes of this, and you tell me if that's what you hear. And then I want to show you an interview that apparently, I think it was the day before the election, that he gave to Piers Morgan. And listen to what he says. I think you guys are going to be a little shocked by this. I don't know. I just always thought of Dr. Phil as this tough, steel-spined guy. He just didn't care. I mean, he's like 74 years old now. You know, generally older men, they're pretty brave. They're not going to sit around and have somebody tell them what to do or have them run in fear. And like I said, this man is a is a very wealthy man. And of course, he got his start because of Oprah Winfrey. He was one of the trial consultants that helped pick the jury. She was being sued at the time, if memory serves me correctly, by the Texas Beef or American Beef Association. She said something about she would never eat a hamburger again. And they got all bent out of shape about that. And they had this big, expensive trial to punish her as a result of that. I don't know if she had anything to do with this or what, but it's just interesting. Oh, and we'll talk about it later. Guess what? You know that interview that Kamala Harris had with Oprah Winfrey? It turns out, imagine this, they're not being honest with us once again, okay? They're not being honest with us. Surprise, surprise. Oprah Winfrey was paid $1 million by the Harris campaign to interview Kamala Harris. Can you imagine that? She received $1 million, ladies and gentlemen, and they did not tell us that. Now, is that deceptive? That's just wrong. Agree or disagree? Please, someone talk to me. Tell me if you agree. Don't be bashful. Talk about it. Call in. Tell me what you think. Let's start on this here and listen to just a little bit of this. I'm going to go through the highlights, and I'm going to point out where I believe Dr. Phil endorsed Donald Trump, and tell me if you agree. So let's get on this. I'm going to speed it up just a bit so we can kind of get through it here.
Well, you guys look just like you do when I'm on TV. Except for you, you look a little different. Listen, I love you guys for caring enough about the United States of America to come out here tonight.
It's a little speeded up.
Thank you so much for caring enough to come out here tonight. I have to tell you, I love this country. I do. I love this country. I stand up when our flag goes by. I put my hand over my heart when they play our national anthem. And I'm so proud to see so many people take time out of their day to come out here and stand up for this country. And strangely enough, I'm not here just to stand up for Donald J. Trump.
Lord knows. Did you guys hear that? Did you guys hear that? I'm not just here. This is really important. Let me play this back to normal speed because I really want everybody to hear this. Okay, we're at 1.37. I'm going to back up just a digit. Now listen to this. He says, I'm not just here to stand up for President Donald J. Trump. Tell me if that's what you hear. Here we go.
I'm not here just to stand up for Donald J. Trump.
Okay, I'm not here just to stand up for Donald J. Trump. Sapphire, tell me, my friend, is that an endorsement? That sounds like an endorsement to me, doesn't it to you, ladies and gentlemen? All right. I just want to hit a few more pieces of this here, and we're going to move on.
Lord knows he doesn't need me to stand up for him. He's tough as an old army boot.
Okay, he does not need me to stand up for him. Now, isn't the inference that he's standing up / endorsing Donald Trump? And Sapphire, you're exactly on the same page I am, my friend. It is definitely an endorsement. Thank you for that. Okay, so let's continue a few more minutes, a few more seconds, I should say, of this.
He's got lots of enemies, different groups that are scared, and between them, they have impeached him, indicted him, raided him, railroaded him, shot him, and sued him.
Love it.
And right where is he? He is still standing.
Okay, pretty straightforward, right?
He just keeps on coming because he loves this country too.
Okay. All right. I'm going to stop it right there. We got the gist of it. We have reviewed this video in the past, and essentially what the takeaway was is he's talking about bullying and that we need to stand up for people being bullied. And if you don't do so, you're as guilty as the person that is a bully. I mean, all these are things I can pretty well agree with. I don't think any of us would necessarily disagree with any of that. But let's see if Dr. Phil has the same feelings when it comes to this interview. Again, this is Piers Morgan, or I'm sorry, Piers Morgan. Sorry about the French there. Piers Morgan. I actually like this guy. I will tell you, there was a time I was not as much of an advocate of his as I am now, but I think he's generally trying to be. He's trying to be a stand-up reporter. He's trying to report the facts as he sees them and trying not to be biased one way or the other. And if I'm correct, I believe he has also endorsed President Donald Trump. I know he has definitely came out and supported him before. And it's clear by this interview that this happened apparently just before the actual election, like either the morning of the election or the day before the election. But I just want you to listen to just a couple pieces of this right here, and let's talk about it.
Even in the last 4 months, this presidential race is like nothing we've ever seen before. 2 assassination attempts, the unseating of the Democrat nominee to be replaced by his vice president, Trump rocking up in a McDonald's, Trump driving a garbage truck, etc., etc. First of all, what do you make of it all?
Well, it certainly is different than what you or I grew up with. I'm decidedly older than you, so I've maybe seen one more or 2 elections more, but statesmanship has been redefined, wouldn't you say? Things have gone decidedly less traditional, and I think that not for the better, to tell you the truth, in my opinion. I much preferred the more traditional type where the issues were discussed. There was a degree of decorum, and I hate to see it head into the gutter the way it has.
Yeah, it's very interesting you say that, because I've always been struck by the civility that you've always brought to your broadcasting. Always. And you're like that in private as you are in public. And it seems to me that the level of discourse, not just in America, we've seen the same thing in the UK, that it's got very tribal, very toxic, and completely lacking in the kind of civility that we would both like to see more of.
Well, I think you learn more, because when you get into so much of the hyperbole and the name calling and the analogies and the rhetoric,
I'm going to speed it up just a bit
at the
for
expense
time,
of the
because I have a lot I
issues.
want to get to,
You know,
and I'll slow it
people have
down when
always
we
said
get to
politics
the point
are local. I disagree. I think politics are personal. Maybe people don't want to say that because it seems like they're greedy or they're just egotistical and they care only about how it impacts them. But at some point, at some level, whether people like to admit it or not, there is that moment where they say, how does this impact me and my family? How does this impact the ability for me to provide for my family, to be safe and secure in my home? How does this impact all of that? And I think to do that, you have to really understand what some of the core issues are. And when you get into all of this character assassination, and people talk about Trump calling people names and things like that, but if you look at what's come back from the other side in this election, it's been very much the same. And I don't think that advances the ball at all. When I sat down and interviewed Trump for the first time, if you saw any of that, I said,
I did.
When he was talking about revenge, you saw that I talked to him and said, how does this help? And got him to agree, at least temporarily, that this doesn't help the country. You getting even with people that you think have.
There's one thing I want to mention too. I have been watching Dr. Phil and President Trump elect for quite some time now, and their interaction. Because see, Dr. Phil has recently started his own news media empire, if you will, this Merritt Street News Media. As a matter of fact, at MSG, he was talking about his new media empire. And by the way, I'm not sure if this has something to do with what you're about to hear, but the thing of it is Dr. Phil also has a new book out. I believe it's called We Have Problems, and I'm not endorsing the book, and I'm not selling the book, but I am listening to it on, I believe it's Scrib or one of those platforms, because I think it's a good read, and it's a well thought out book. And his points in the book pretty well outline what he's been talking to President Trump about, and he's kind of touching on it right here. But let's continue listening, and then we'll sew this all together for you. It's not much further, and you're going to hear something very interesting.
Aggressed against you. That doesn't help people put tennis shoes on their children. It doesn't help them feed them or give them lunch money for the next day. It doesn't help fill their car up with gas. They're not interested in that. They're interested in the things that impact them, not you getting even with people. How did it help when people came after you? And he said, well, it didn't. Well, how's it going to help when you come after them? It doesn't. That's bad. And, you said that after all this time, I had become, I quit being apolitical, and that's really not true. I knew when I spoke at the Trump rally, everybody would go, oh, there he is. He's gone political.
Yeah, here he goes.
That was an act of rebellion on my part because.
Did you hear that? He's trying to, he's backing off his endorsement. He's backing off his endorsements, ladies and gentlemen. That's exactly what he's doing. He just said that his statements at MSG was an act of rebellion. What? As my kids would say, what the chicken? What is going on? I'm going to back it up just a few seconds. Okay, hear this from the doctor's mouth here. It's almost unbelievable after what we just reviewed on that other video in front of the MSG crowd. He had a completely different tone and a completely different take. But here we go.
I knew when I spoke at the Trump rally, everybody would go, oh, there he is. He's gone political. But that was an act of rebellion on my part because I requested 25 plus times to speak to Kamala Harris and never got so much as a yes, no, maybe. Just wouldn't agree to.
Really?
An interview. I asked to speak to her. I asked to speak. Maybe Robin and I sit down with she and her husband. Asked to have a dinner interview, and there are people that are very close.
Okay. Just keep in mind, I get this. I have no doubt that he reached out to Kamala Harris and her campaign multiple times, and he wanted to interview her the same way that he interviewed Donald Trump. I don't deny that. I don't think he's lying. I don't think there's anything disingenuous about that. But what is going on? What is he doing? He's bobbing and weaving, and in a second, he's going to tell you something even more shocking. It's almost someone had to club him over the head, financially speaking, to make him change and dial back his tone, his clear endorsement at the rally. I'm surprised Pierce doesn't push him harder on this, but it's just clear something's amiss. Something's wrong.
That I have very close friends in the power structure of the Democratic Party who know me well and said, let me tell you something. He would never disrespect the office of the president or vice president of the United States because he thinks it's a terrible look internationally. So listen, he is a cross-examiner. He did spend his life in litigation arena. But I promise you, this is not an ambush interview that he's going to hammer you. He thinks that's a bad look for
I want to speed it up, ladies and gentlemen, just for time's sake.
I can tell you,
and I'll stop it when necessary.
As a friend of yours, as a member of the Democrat Party, and knowing him for 20 or 30 years, I will stake my personal reputation that will not happen. Please sit down with him. And nope, won't do it. And some of the reasons given were we've seen him cross-examine people in criminal cases on his show. We've seen him where he won't move off a question until it's answered. Just absolutely not going to do it. And I said, when I gave the speech at the Trump rally, I offered to give the identical speech at a Harris rally. Said I will cross out Trump's name, write in Harris's name, and give the identical speech at a Harris rally. And
that, if you didn't catch it, is what I find shocking, even though this whole thing is shocking. He told the Harris campaign that I will take the speech that I gave at the Donald Trump rally and I will give the same speech. You know, that night that she kind of was sewing everything up and giving her closing remarks, if you will, in front of the White House. I forgot the name of that park right in front of the White House. The Ellipse. It was the same place that Donald Trump allegedly, there ain't no alleged about it, but he gave that speech on January 6th. What would that be? 2021. And then the march happened and all this stuff. But anyway, he was supposed to go with her, or at least he offered to go with her and give the exact same speech and cross off Kamala Harris's name. I'm sorry, Donald Trump's name, and insert Kamala Harris. How would that work? I'm just not, how do you say it? I'm not just here to stand up for Donald Trump. Scratch. I'm not here just to stand up for Kamala Harris, he's losing his credibility. What is this about?
The morning after, we got contacted by somebody that we had been talking to in the Harris.
I just want to make sure y'all heard
at
that.
a Harris rally, said, I will cross out Trump's name, write in Harris's name, and give the identical speech at a Harris rally. And the morning after.
Okay, I've made my point on this. What is going on? What is this about? Any opinions? Anybody have any idea as to what we just watched? This is insane. I mean, he clearly came out and endorsed Donald Trump at that rally. I was praising him on this program. I was giving him accolades for it. I was telling him, hey, fantastic, doctor. I'm really proud to see you reach a point in your life. And he even said at the rally, I know because that I'm here tomorrow morning, there's going to be a lot of people talking about this. He knew there was going to be pushback. He knew that there was going to be a lot of people criticizing him. But his remark was, I don't care. I don't need a job. I'm not dependent on Hollywood, or remarks to that effect, right? And then now you just saw a complete about face. What is going on? I mean, the obvious thing is that, I mean, as far as I can figure this out, he must have had people that were financially backing Merit Street Media, which is his new venture. He's trying to do, in my opinion, like Oprah Winfrey did. You know, Oprah Winfrey has the Oprah Winfrey Network, the OWN. As a matter of fact, Oprah Winfrey Network, that's the acronym for that. That's her network that she has been running, and Dr. Phil has been trying to do the same thing. Matter of fact, he has done the same thing with Merit Street Media. I'm not sure how successful it is yet, but I would encourage you, by the way, if you have not heard of Merit Street Media, download the app, sign up for a free account. It's free and it's interesting. And I think he has a small presence on YouTube and on X. So, and by the way, if y'all haven't done so already, please hit the thumbs up button. Give me a few more thumbs up. I definitely appreciate it. You can do it for free, and it helps the algorithm, and it pushes the message out that we are talking about right now. And obviously, if you're on X, we have quite a few X viewers. Thanks for being here. Y'all can always take a second and hit the like button and follow on X. On X, I'm at Reach JR Dukes. On YouTube, it's just simply at JR Dukes, and the same thing for Truth Social, just at JR Dukes. So appreciate everybody being here and chatting with me today. What is going on with the good doctor? I can only imagine that he caved to pressure. Straightforward. I mean, I don't know what other explanation there can be. You heard what he said at the Trump rally, and then he did a complete back face. And you know, here's the funniest part. Here's what I find hilarious in my mind. He did that on Monday. I'm thinking in my mind, oh, he's believing these polls showing that Kamala Harris is going to run away with it. Kamala Harris is really going to put a whooping on Donald Trump. And he's thinking, man, I better correct this because I might have really made a mistake. Obviously, there has to be a financial component to this. It must be affecting his Merit Street Media. I mean, I don't really see how there could be any other explanation for this. And he went on. He's talking to Piers Morgan, and he does a complete back out on this here. So shame on you, Dr. Phil. I like you, Dr. Phil. I mean, listen, I can shake hands and forgive and forget. No problem. But doctor, where is your credibility at? You should be ashamed of yourself, doctor. Don't do that. Folks, let me tell you something straight up and very clearly so you understand how I look at these type of things. I can tell you from my own life's experience, I've made mistakes. Isn't that a shocking thing? I have made mistakes in my life. But in all seriousness, one or two things that I would have done different in my life that I can think about that relate somehow to Dr. Phil is, folks, listen to me clearly. When you make a decision, stick with the decision. Don't do these half measures. Anybody ever see that movie Breaking Bad? There is a great part in that movie. One of the movie titles is called what was it? Making half decisions, or something about where you're splitting the baby. You know, you're not taking a full measure and doing what needs to be done. And one of the characters in there was telling the guy on Breaking Bad, the main character, he was telling him, don't take half measures. When you make a decision, do it. When you set out to do something, matter of fact, I think the half measure is he was confronting some guy that was abusing his then wife, and he was told to, basically kill the guy, and yet he let the guy live, and it turned out to be a bad mistake because the guy came back and did something bad to him. Obviously, we're talking about a fictional movie, but I'm telling you, in my real life, I have done this where I have decided to do something and then backed off too soon or decided to kind of walk the fence on the matter. It's almost always better to continue walking the walk that you started. Now, at some point after, for example, this election has passed and you need to do a little bit of changing or do some a little bit of switcheroo. I kind of get that. I used to always say, make the right decision or make the decision right. But that doesn't apply to what you just seen here with Dr. Phil. He's not making the decision right. He's trying to play both sides, and he's trying to scratch out what he already did. And now, guess what? All he did was end up aggravating both sides. And we see politicians doing this all the time, where they make a statement and then they back off, and all that happens is they made no one happy. They didn't satisfy any side of their argument, so to speak, or their constituents, and then they end up making both sides mad. I mean, it's just a lose-lose. Instead of a win-lose, they turn that into a lose-lose, right? All right, I don't want to stay on that any longer. I just thought that was just terrible. Terrible, Dr. Phil. You should not do that, Dr. Phil. Please make a better decision in the future. Not that you've necessarily ever asked for my opinion, but if it happens again, remember, don't do that. I want to take a quick peek at the ladies of The View. I know y'all have watched or heard of the ladies on The View. I will tell you, I don't know why I watch these ladies. Obviously, I watch them. I don't know why I watch them. It's probably something that I should make another decision about, but at any rate, I do watch them occasionally. Some of the nonsense that comes out of their mouth is just nothing short of shocking. And I guess the one good thing about listening to them is you get to see how these liberal-minded woke individuals think. At least you get an idea of why they're thinking what they're thinking or how they think. And these people here are just completely detached from reality. These women generally on here, they're obviously very liberal women, and they're generally very wealthy. And what that means is when you have a lot of money is you generally lose touch with what I call reality, or what they would call the middle class or the working middle class. They just don't understand how life is when you have kids and you're trying to struggle to pay your bills, to buy milk and food for your children, put them in through school. They just lose touch with this type of stuff. I mean, I think that's about the best way to say it. Okay, so you have this one lady here. This is she's actually a good-looking lady, I think, but she's just batshit. You know what? Up front, excuse the slip of the tongue there, but she's just nuts upstairs, as far as I'm concerned. And she is definitely one of these folks that suffer with Trump derangement syndrome. This is Alyssa Farah Griffin, I think is her name. So this is the tail end of her comment, and you're not going to believe what Sunny Huston, is that her name? Sunny Huston has to say about America. It's amazing to me, folks, that they get away talking like this to people. It's just shocking to me. But let's listen to this short clip here.
I don't like how he talks, but my life was better off economically when he was president.
And by the way, she's saying this now. Normally, she is on this program just burning Donald Trump. I mean, everything about the man. I think she used to work for him as a senior advisor at one point, and it's another one of these stories where he had to let her go for whatever reason. And, I get, what do you call it? Sour grapes, something like that. But at any rate, she's at the tail end of her comment, and let's see what the next lady has to say. Truly unbelievable.
And I'm struck by this.
But that's the middle class. We're talking about the working class.
I'm talking broadly. Yeah. He was not just the working class that he won. He also got the largest share of young voters for Republicans since 2008. That was the height of the financial crisis. Young voters, maybe they care about Gaza, maybe they care about student loans, but to be honest, 2/3 of this country doesn't even get to go to college. They were thinking, am I going to have a job? Am I going to be able to afford?
Yeah, I want to make sure I pause it periodically, if not for no other reason but copyright reasons. Some of the news footage and stuff I have no problem with as far as talking about it, and it's perfectly legal for me to use something like this. It's called fair use, and I'm definitely commenting and or educational purposes or whatnot with it. But I have to take a break here and there before we get to Sonny's comment, just because I don't want the feed to go dark. So let's continue.
The life that I want. And finally, suburban women, sure, they definitely care about abortion. They also care that they're paying to send their kids to college and their graduations are being canceled because there's protests everywhere and because people are out in the streets demonstrating over a war somewhere else rather than just being able to educate their kids. There is so much room for self-reflection from the Democrats, and I hope they have it. Every time Joe Biden bragged about how good the economy is,
she needs to also have self-reflection.
Disagree.
All right.
Here we go.
I think that I'd like to reframe the conversation. I think Bernie Sanders is wrong. I think the more relevant question actually is, what is wrong with America? I think what is wrong with our country that the Republican Party would choose as a candidate and support.
Can you believe that she would say on television to over half of the country, what is wrong with our country? She makes a ton of money, I'm guessing, from ABC, and we know ABC is definitely a woke media company, to say the least. She's being paid tons of money to sit on this program, and she sits right here and insults the American voter that has made a decision. She thinks she is high enough or good enough or better than everyone else where she can essentially preach to each and every one of us. What is going on?
Candidate who is an insurrectionist, who is an election denier.
You know, again, insurrectionist. He's not an insurrectionist. If you look up the definition of an insurrectionist, that doesn't fit Donald Trump, nor has he ever been charged or convicted of insurrection. So I want to point that out so everybody can clearly understand that.
Who is someone who is twice impeached, 34-time convicted.
Yeah, twice impeached. So what? What does that mean? It means that the Democrats got together, took a vote of 51 or more, or I should say 51% of the members, and they agreed to impeach him. Yeah, you can impeach him for any reason you want. It doesn't mean, of course, they removed him from office, because, of course, they did not remove him. And as you hear her talk about the 34 convicted felonies, that he's a 34-time convicted felon, I want you to know, I looked up the law in New York State. Under New York law, you are not technically a convicted felon until you are actually sentenced by the judge. Once the judge pronounces sentence on you pertaining to your case, then you are classified as a convicted felon. So what she is saying right here is an outright lie.
Felon, someone who has been accused of alleged sexual misconduct by 26 women, found liable for sexual abuse. What is wrong with this country that they would choose a message of divisiveness, of xenophobia, of race?
She's just going to spout off all these big 25-cent words, and it's just completely meaningless, and she's just wrong. It's kind of like saying someone has been sued for consumer fraud. Well, guess what? I can literally go to court today, right now, and with my own handwriting, I could write out a piece of paper that says I'm suing whoever I want to sue for violating the consumer fraud statute. Have you served with that document, and then forever someone can say that you were sued for consumer fraud. It doesn't matter that the case was dismissed by a judge, or that it was settled, or that it was a frivolous lawsuit. It's just stuff that she just wants to spew and throw up there.
Of misogyny over a message.
Yeah, and of course, the old playbook, Donald Trump's a misogynist. He's a racist. He's this, he's that. There's no evidence for any of that. And, you know, folks, I really wish our country, our society could get to a place where we stop calling everybody a racist. It's really aggravating, and it's insulting, and it's beneath us. In my opinion, a person looks uneducated when all they can say is that person's a racist. That person is this, xenophobia. It's just the same old nonsense. And guess what? Guess what, Sonny? The entire country went to the polls and overwhelmingly voted for Donald J. Trump to be the 47th president of the United States. They have decided he is not a xenophobe. They have decided that he's not a misogynist. And you know what? The bottom line is they thought enough of him to vote for him. And that's the bottom line.
Of inclusiveness, a message for the people, by the
But
people, of the
it's
people.
not
That's
just
what the problem is.
Republicans.
It's
He
the
won the
Republican
popular vote.
Party.
But can
And
I,
what's
can
wrong
I
with
say
America?
something before we can do a second? The
of course,
Democrats
Joy.
are the ones. They are the party that cares for the blue collar
Exactly.
worker.
Yeah, not anymore. Not anymore. I don't think that's fair to say that they carry that mantle anymore, that they are the party of the blue-collared American, which I think is fantastic. Very, very smart on Donald Trump's part, the way that he has masterfully played this entire election. If you want my honest opinion about it, he definitely ran a very, very professional campaign. He was very smart on going on all these talk shows. He was smart about going on these podcasts. He gives interviews all the time. He's well-spoken. He has charisma. Let me tell you the reason why Kamala Harris lost. Kamala Harris lost because she's a terrible candidate. America resoundingly said, I don't want that socialism. I don't want that communism. I don't want people telling me that I'm a bad person if I don't vote a certain way. I mean, let's be honest about it. You had Barack Hussein Obama out there telling black men that you're this and that if you vote for Donald Trump. And Mr. Black Man, if you vote for Donald Trump, then obviously that just shows that you can't handle a woman being having a woman as the next president of the United States, which of course is a complete crock. It's just nonsense. And imagine they think it's okay. They think it's okay to talk down to people, to shame people, to earn their vote. They think that that's normal. And, you get somebody like Barack Obama and his crazy wife. And the fact is, folks, they're living where up in Nantucket. They have a huge, beautiful home. They're playing on the beach every day and just enjoying life. They got tons of money rolling in. I mean, let's just call it what it is. They don't know what it's like to live paycheck to paycheck. They don't know what it's like to live as a regular, normal, working class American. And they somehow they have convinced themselves that it's okay to talk down to the American people. What is that about? What kind of nonsense is that? If you want to know why they lost the election, I mean, this is what everybody wants to know online. It's like the Democrats are walking around kind of in a fog. Who wants to talk about LGBTQ and all this other stuff as a reason to vote for someone as a president? That's all the Democrats would talk about. And listen, I'm not saying nothing about anybody, LGBT, whatever. I don't care what alphabet we're talking about. My point is everyone is equal under the law, and we need to love everyone as Jesus loves each and every one of us. But when your whole platform is something to do with sex changes and sex changes for prisoners, or you will just follow the law and you won't answer questions, and you allow men to compete in women's sports, after women through Title IX have fought for years to have sports that they can participate in. And now you have these woke figures. I would say a good word for it in the words of Tim Walz is wacky. These wacky and weird individuals think it's okay to allow men to compete with women. It's just insanity what's going on. You had Kamala Harris with that MMA fund, that Minneapolis fund to get people out of jail that were rioting against the police. What about this defund the police nonsense? They talk about women and women's rights. Well, how about the right of a woman to be able to be safe in her house? And how about the open border? All these people coming across, not checked across the border. These are the reasons they lost this election. It's just basically America said, we've had enough and we're not going to take it any longer. We've had enough of being pushed and pushed and pushed as a election denier, as we're going to keep throwing more and more people from January 6th in jail. Donald Trump and this lawfare, they have succeeded in making the United States the same as a third world country. We have now lost our credibility in the world to tell other people how to live their lives, how to have proper elections, how not to go after their adversaries just because they don't agree with their ideas. You have someone like President Donald Trump. They literally tried to take every dime from him. They went after his children. They took his mugshot. They have had him tied up in trial all summer, trying to keep him from being able to run for president. They literally took his name off the ballot in Colorado and Maine. And there's reports now that Nancy Pelosi is trying to draw up papers against Donald Trump to have him charged with some kind of crime so they can evict him from office again. Another impeachment is being drawn up by Nancy Pelosi as of right now, according to the Babylonian Bee. Absolute insanity, isn't it? I mean, what do people expect is going to happen when you're engaging in this type of nonsense? Let me show you that article real quick. It's like these people never learn, and when you get right down to it, in a way, maybe it's good they keep talking about this same nonsense like this right here. Because all that's going to do is it's just going to make it easier for Republicans to continue to win offices. I mean, I think that's about the best way to say it. Nancy Pelosi begins drafting articles of impeachment, November 8th, 2024. Politics, and this is the Babylonian Bee online edition, Washington, D.C. Early reports from Capitol Hill indicate President-elect Donald Trump's upcoming second term was already off to a contentious start, with Congresswoman Nancy Pelosi reportedly drafting articles of impeachment against him for his involvement in the 2020 presidential election. He won, and that's against the law, Pelosi said. And quite frankly, he's admitted it. He's admitted to winning the election, but no one is above the law. What? Though Pelosi no longer serves as Speaker of the House and was unable to cite any Pacific law or statute Trump had broken by winning the election, it says she remained determined to follow through on impeachment again. He must be held accountable for his heinous crime, Pelosi continued. This is an urgent matter. We don't have time to deal with citing actual reasons why he should be impeached. That's not necessary. The important thing here is to make sure he gets impeached for something. We cannot let him be president again, because that would be very bad for me, and that's illegal. What? I had to double check the source on this because this just sounds crazy. But you know what? This is the same Nancy Pelosi, the day after election, walked up to the podium and she said something to the effect of, "There's no sense in saying good morning because it's definitely not a good morning." Bunch of nonsense, ain't it? These are the people that these woke liberal Democrats allowed them to hijack their party and their platform. And of course, we should not be surprised at the results, right? I mean, I think it's pretty straightforward. Let's take a look at this thing here. I want to go over the J.R. Dukes feed. We'll take a look at a few things, and then I want to take a look at some comments. So if you have any comments or questions, please put them in the appropriate little box down there at the bottom, because we are definitely going to chat about them. All right, let's go ahead and take a look. Again, I'm on X. I'm at J.R. Dukes. And if you ever need to find where I'm at in case I have additional videos taken down by YouTube, remember, I had a video not long ago. I technically did not get a strike, but they sent me let's just call it a strong warning. I'm not going to discuss the topic, but if you want to know what it was, it is on my feed at J.R. Dukes on the X platform, the home of truly free speech, which you can thank Elon Musk for. And you know how I feel about the speech on this channel. Free speech is absolutely a must. So anyway, you got these Dems that are free.
Right. A campaign that was,
there's a lady right here.
I think part of what Donald Trump did is that he leaned into a lot of the institutionalized misogyny as a way to try to neutralize her effectiveness. So she was super effective speaker, really galvanized voters in a really important way.
Yeah, everybody trying to find a reason why they lost so badly. And of course, this lady thinks it's institutionalized misogyny. I think that's a fancy way to say that they hate women, but I digress. Here is from the Vigilant Fox, CNN's Van Jones breaks the metrics and unexpectedly drops a truth bomb on air. got to hand it to this guy. Every once in a while, he will speak exactly what the truth is.
Fascistic country.
So let's take a
because
peek at it here.
The Kamala Harris campaign wound up spending a bunch of money on TV ads, and the TV ads sucked. They did not appeal to anyone, but it was dial tested, and it was all supposed to. The data dummies were up there telling us these are great ads, but nobody liked the ads. So people are now saying America is this racist, sexist, fascistic country because of this outcome. Listen, we've always had some racist, sexist, fascist people in the country. That's not what happened. What happened is you had some key parts of this coalition, especially black men, who were not handled properly. I can tell you right now, what was the agenda for immigrants? Comprehensive immigration reform. What's the agenda for women? Abortion. What's the agenda for transgender people? Dignity and respect. What was the agenda for black men?
Yeah, folks, they always try the same nonsense. The fact of the matter is that black men definitely supported Donald Trump in huge numbers, at least compared to what type of percentage the Republicans normally pull away as far as the black vote is concerned. However, what they forget to tell you is Kamala Harris was bragging, and we've watched this on this program many times. She used to give a press conference as Attorney General of California saying, oh, it just takes a little bit of my pen to go ahead and sign my name to a piece of paper to have people locked up. She was prosecuting individuals who were late to school. She was going after truancy. And remember that one lady that her daughter had some kind of handicap or disability? But Kamala Harris said, I need that money. I need that money. Because see, what it is the federal government pays each of these schools based on the number of students they actually have attending. If a student calls out that day, the school actually loses money for that day. And Kamala Harris like, I need my money. I need my money. And she ended up going after this one woman in particular that's in my mind. And this woman ended up losing her house as a result of these charges, the expenses and the resulting conviction. She ended up losing her place to live as a result of that. Well, thank you, Kamala Harris. And see, folks, black men know a lot of them, unfortunately, have had experience with our American justice system. And as Donald Trump would tell you, the system is tough. I like that word. It's not necessarily inherently unfair or crooked, but it is tough. And it's really tough when you don't have money. And again, you know me, I don't like these identity politics. I don't like this black, white, yellow, whatever crap. It aggravates me. I really wish we can drop this race nonsense. You know how I feel about that. It's aggravating. And it's unfortunate. It's overblown. It's inappropriate. It makes people think they're a victim. It divides all of us, and we're all brothers and sisters in Christ. And so we need to drop that. But the bottom line is this. The fact of the matter is they know she built her career, at least initially built her career off loving to throw people in jail. She was throwing people in jail not only for truancy, but for simple possession of marijuana. Then she would go to one of the other podcasts, admit she smoked marijuana, and then laughing about it. Yet there's people that actually went to jail. I believe that one press report was just under 1,600 people she incarcerated as a result of simple marijuana possession. Pretty sad. Hello, American Nana. Good to see you in the chat, young lady. Thanks for being here with us. So again, these are the reasons, among other reasons, that black men specifically decided not to support her. So we have revenge of the average, everyday working class American. You know, I normally don't quote Bernie Sanders or really ever agree with Bernie Sanders, but it's like he said in his open letter. Why are you surprised that the working class in America abandoned the Democratic Party when the Democratic Party abandoned them? So let's see what this guy here had to say on CNN.
I'm interpreting the results tonight as the revenge of just the regular old working class American, the anonymous American who has been crushed, insulted, condescended to. They're not garbage. They're not Nazis. They're just regular people who get up and go to work every day and are trying to make a better life for their kids. And they feel like they have been told to just shut up when they have complained about the things that are hurting them in their own lives.
Okay, can you all imagine a time? Well, I guess you can because it's now. Can you imagine a time where you would have a sitting United States president say openly and directly to the American people that if you support Donald Trump, you are garbage? Really? That's interesting. Very interesting. And, have you noticed the Democratic Party has turned into a party that cannot even take a joke? You cannot even say a joke without the joke trying to be used against you. You had Trump's comedian say that the island of Puerto Rico was a big trash heap, or words to that effect. And yet you had the press getting all upset, including the president, Kamala Harris, that Donald Trump said or condoned that Puerto Ricans were trash. That's not what was said. He said the island of Puerto Rico. But again, it really doesn't matter on what the difference is. It's just a bunch of, just a complete bunch of absolute nonsense. And I don't know. I don't know why we are all surprised by that. Let's go ahead and take a peek at some of these comments here. I don't want to make today's program too long, but I do want to get to some of your questions and comments. Let's back up here and let's get started on this. I appreciate everybody joining me today. John, thanks for being here. Sapphire, appreciate you being here. And exactly right, Zach, thank you for being fashionably late. And Alyssa Griffin was the correct lady, the one of the ones on The View. I tell you what, I don't know how they get paid so much money, but I guess when you think about it, if Donald Trump ends up with 74, 75 million votes, I guess Kamala Harris is 70 million votes. I guess if 70 million people are watching your program, then they can, it's worth paying these ladies to sit up there and spew the nonsense that 70 million people want to hear, I guess. I don't know. John, your thoughts on Trump creating a working class party? Well, that'd be interesting, to be honest with you. I have not heard much about that. If you're talking about him making a separate party, or thoughts on Trump creating, what I will say is this: he clearly has made the Republican Party the party of the working class individual. I think that's fantastic. And I want to make one other comment, since you have rightly planted in my mind. One of the things that I have not talked about yet, and I think is clearly underrated, in this election, Donald Trump was able to pull 1 in 3 votes of individuals of color. I guess they're talking about black, yellow, brown people, whatever the color is. So non-white is probably the best way to say it. Non-white, 1 in 3, which is a very substantial figure compared to what basically the Democrats take for granted. They normally get the minority vote, if you will, or the non-white vote is probably the best way to say it. But what I really, really was happy about in this election is Donald Trump was able to get, I believe it was 46% of the Latino vote. And when it comes to men, Latino men, he was able to pull 55% of the vote. And let me tell you why I think that's fantastic. The sole reason the Democrats, the Biden-Harris administration, has allowed this border to be open to the way it is, it's all about power. It's all about money. To them, in their mind, it's a play to take total power of the country. That's all this is. It's nothing to do with anything else but power/money. They believe that if you allow enough people in, sooner or later, the people, just like when Reagan was in power. When I was a kid, I clearly remember Ronald Reagan making a deal with the Democrats that if Ronald Reagan would grant amnesty, would allow the people already in the country to become citizens, to solve the illegal problem, all these people here, and yet they are not full citizens. If it was basically that, hey, you allow these people to be citizens, put them on a pathway to citizenship, and Mr. Reagan, we will seal the border. Well, of course, Ronald Reagan kept his end of the bargain up right away. The Democrats, of course, surprise, surprise, did not. They never sealed the border. So we're in the same big pot, the same big soupy mess, AKA just the nonsense, whatever you want to call it. We're in the same situation right now today. And they know that sooner or later they're going to have to grant some kind of program to put these people on a pathway to citizenship. Donald Trump is definitely going to deport a lot of people. I don't have any doubt about that. And he should. He should get the criminals, the bad actors out of here. I don't have any problem with that. But folks, you're talking anywhere from 12 to 40 million people. I don't know how many illegal immigrants there are here. That's a lot of people. Do the math on that. Can you imagine all the people going to be carted off and hauled off? And also, there's one other thing, too. Imagine on the news as you see people dragged from their houses and put in a van or put on a plane. And I just see it now. I don't want to act like a pronunciator. I hope I'm wrong. Can you imagine when it hits the news And the economy, remember, the economy gets better, life gets better, sanity's back to where it should be, and people are not worried about losing their gun rights and us becoming socialists. And, it's a different time in another year. And yet you have families being ripped apart and forcibly removed back to their country of origin. That's going to be a mess. And the numbers are so large, I don't know mathematically that it can physically be done. But at a minimum, here's what they will do. They'll remove the criminals, they'll remove the gangs, they'll remove let's just call them bad actors. But again, back to my original point, that is their play. They figure that it's a lifetime lock on power. And they figured if they're not citizens today, the children they have will be citizens in 18 years, and they're assuming their Latino children will vote Democrat. This election proves that is wrong. These people are not here looking for Democratic handouts. They're not here looking for free tuition from the Democrats. They're not here looking for plumbers, electricians, HVAC professionals to pay off the accounts of attorneys and doctors that went to college. They are here to work and make a better life for themselves. They're pursuing the American dream. And so the Latino vote is not a lock. It's not a lock for the Democrats. They have misjudged, in my humble opinion. And I think this election has proven this. The Latino vote is not a lock for the Democrats, and we'll see in time if I'm right about that. Thanks for that question, John. Sapphire, yeah, I watched the appeals court. All the justices were appalled and talked about putting guardrails on the AG's powers because she inserted herself. Yeah, I have a thing too on that attorney general. We'll talk about it another day, but that Letitia James, man, Donald Trump's lawyer, came out swinging at her the other day. It's pretty cool what he told her. He said, if you think we're going to tolerate this anymore, you got another thing coming. And I personally hope she changes her ways. If she doesn't, I hope they drop the axe on her, See, Trump killed the race car. Yeah, I think so, John. I think that I think he's going to put a crimp on that. I really do. I truly hope that our country gets to a point where we stop this race crap. It's just aggravating. I just don't know. I do know why they keep doing it, because it gives them a way to divide people and a way for them to try to take more power, make more money. They basically keep everybody in a continued state of being PO'd, and in return they make a ton of money off it, where you can turn into the news you want, whether you're Democrat, whether you're Republican. They do it for a reason. There's no reason they're not doing it. So I think you're exactly right on your comments. And let's see. Good comments from everybody. Sapphire, thank you. I love the conversation inside here. This works out. This was good. It's always good to have an internal conversation. That's why I like doing these programs, because I firmly believe that indoctrination lives in the dark. And whenever we can shine light on it, talk about it, get it out and figure it out, we are all better as a result of it. So I think that's good. American Nana, thank you for being here. It's always a pleasure to have you in the chat, young lady. I think that I'd rather have you here now than you not show up at any particular time. I am definitely glad that Trump is not going to offer Nikki Haley a job, or that other guy that I'm drawing a blank right now, but the former Secretary of State guy. I think he came out right after January 6th and was bashing Trump. So we'll see how that works out. We will not stand to be last. Well, yeah, right on, American Nana. Good job. All right, everybody, looking good. If you have any last minute questions or anything, we'll put them in so I can answer them for you. I want to say, folks, I appreciate everybody tuning in to the special episode of the Power Hour with J.R. Dukes. It's always my pleasure. I enjoy going over what I call the Dukes feed. There's a lot of good information out there on True Social, the X platform, and just YouTube and these other platforms. And it's cool. I think there's a lot of stuff out there that needs to be talked about so we can all review it together. And we all need to pray for our president, his family. I know it may not seem that way. I know he's a very wealthy man. He's very blessed in that regard. He's got a beautiful family, and I'm glad for him. He's doing a good job, trying to do a good job for all of us, irregardless of party. There's no doubt about that. But my friends, trust me, we need to pray for the president and his family, for them to have wisdom, to have temperance, to do what needs to be done to keep our country strong. Because when the United States is strong and just, the whole world is strong and just. Make no mistake about it, this country, United States of America, is a very special country, a very special place. Nothing like it has ever existed in all of history. And I don't take that for granted. And I don't say that as a platitude. It's very true. We are very blessed. Clearly, in my opinion, God has blessed our country, and may he always continue to bless our country, bless our President Donald Trump elect. I also pray God will bless each and every one of you, and may his special anointing be on each and every one of you as of right now. And also, if the election did not go your way, listen, relax, take heart to know that God has everything in control. Try to understand what has happened and why it's happened, and everybody just try to take a deep breath and relax. I will admit, though, it's definitely good to be a Republican this time of the year, right? It went our way, and everything's going the way we like it to go. So, folks, appreciate each and every one of you. It's a pleasure. Never take you guys for granted. Thank you for joining me today. I always say, keep that mind free. Never give up. Until next time, my friends, I am J.R. Dukes.